Nothing ever happens, bros, are in shambles because Iran just launched an attack on the U.S. base in Qatar in the wake of strikes. This is breaking news here at Third Eye Global.
Let's now switch to Israel. Go to our chief foreign correspondent, Trey Yanks. He's live in Tel Aviv with the latest, not only from Israel, but what do you make of the fact that this appeared to be a pretty limited response, Trey?
Yeah, John, good afternoon. We're getting more information from regional sources right now on this Iranian attack targeting the Al Udeid air base just outside of Doha, Qatar.
We did our own research, and we found that there are approximately 10,000 personnel in or near this airbase. Whether they were actually evacuated beforehand, hopefully we find out in the next couple minutes. But I would have a hard time believing U.S. intelligence would let their troops just face tank Iranian missiles. As far as I'm aware, we shot that shit down, and there's been no casualties.
The latest information that we have, according to the Qatari Foreign Ministry, they say these missiles were intercepted over the Qatari capital of Doha. They say there are no injuries on the ground, and the Qataris are condemning this attack launched by Iran. This is significant, but not unexpected. The distance between Qatar and Iran is just over 100 nautical miles, and this is a large base, the largest American base in the region, and it had largely been evacuated, according to one source.
There we go. Have fun hitting nothing, clown, bozo.
We spoke with before this attack took place. The Americans understood that Qatar, Kuwait, and Bahrain could be on the top target list for the Iranians in any sort of response following those strikes that were ordered by President Trump to go after Iranian nuclear facilities over the weekend. We're working to get some confirmation about reports that American bases in Iraq may have been targeted. But again, the information that we have about
Iran still using intelligence from the 90s. They're not even playing checkers. Iran's out here playing tic-tac-toe, and they can't see the tech of getting all corners first.
About the Gulf is significant. There are air defense systems in Qatar, both the THAAD missile defense system and the Patriot system. And according to some initial video that we reviewed from sources in Doha, it looks like, if not all, but the majority of these incoming missiles were shot down overhead. In terms of what led up to this, we know earlier today the U.S. Embassy in Doha sent out an alert to American citizens in Qatar to shelter in place. Shortly after that, the airspace over this country was closed. You could see on flight radar maps a number of flights diverting to other regional airports. And again, that condemnation coming in from the Qataris.
Is that all they got? Warhawk Phil. Do I smell oil?
We're also monitoring Iranian state media at this hour, who says that they launched this attack, calling it the Annunciation of Victory. Iranian state media also saying their military says this was a devastating and powerful attack. This is not unexpected propaganda to receive from the regime in Tehran, but again, an indication that the Iranians are looking to save face following this U.S. strike that went after their nuclear facilities over the weekend. Other regional countries, including Kuwait, Bahrain, and the UAE, do remain on high
Bet the oil prices are going to go up again?
alert at this hour over concern that there could be further attacks on U.S. interests in the region. Of course, the Fifth Fleet in Bahrain.
Is the U.S. long-term strategy to drain the Middle East of all its oil? Like Daniel Plainview? Drainage! I drink it up! So then we're sitting atop Canada's reserves over in the West? Might be. You're only hearing this angle at Third Eye Global.
There are also thousands of American forces in Kuwait, and then the possibility that Iraq could be targeted as well. I can take you back to 2020 when the Americans ordered that drone strike against Qasem Soleimani outside of Baghdad's international airport. The Iranians responded then with 13 ballistic missiles against the Ain al-Assad air base in western Iraq. And so, of course, missile defense systems across the region remain on high alert. Again, the Americans knew this was a possibility and largely evacuated much of their personnel from these areas. John, Sandra?
All right, just going through the Qatar response here. Qatar saying it reserves the right to respond.
Yeah, the U.S. is trying to drain the main vein. Just like me, for real.
After this Iranian attack. As John just reported, Qatar is saying no casualties from that attack at the U.S. military base. Thank goodness. And the top security body there, Iran's top security body there, is saying armed forces use the same number.
Now other countries that do actually have nukes are offering to give Iran their nukes. Like which countries? That's never going to happen. Oh, look what time it is. Nothing o'clock. North Korea, please. That high-calorie roly-poly-oly is not gonna even raise his finger so much as to give Iran a nuke.
Of bombs that the U.S. had used in attacking Iran's nuclear facilities. That is per the latest statement that we've been digesting, Trey. Please do weigh in on that. As John and I were just discussing, is what we're seeing.
I called my happening guy. Missed.
Is this evidence of diminished capabilities on the part of Iran?
Look, the types of missiles that the Iranians are likely using against American interests in Qatar, as Jennifer noted, are some from their shorter range arsenal. Cruise missiles or possibly medium range ballistic
Kim Jong-un is probably gooning to Bonnie Blue right now.
missiles, but not the same missiles that they were using over the past 11 days to target major Israeli population centers. A Qatari source just sending me another statement that I do want to just read here live. From a spokesman for Qatar's foreign minister saying, we reaffirm that dialogue is the only way to overcome the current crisis and ensure...
You're really playing this off as if USA is all good, Phil. That's right.
the security in the region and the peace of its people remains. And so the Qataris still, amid all of this, encouraging diplomacy and dialogue in the region. They have been one of the leaders in the Middle East over the past more than 600
You think I'm going to root for another country? You're out of your goddamn mind.
days trying to de-escalate regional tension, bring all parties to the table, and ultimately find some sort of off-ramp, ceasefire agreements, or at least temporary understandings. But as this war develops between Israel and Iran, there is concern that this could spiral and continue, because we heard from President Trump.
Listen, as a gay man, I would be killed in Iran. It's that simple. Marinate on that one.
Directly, we heard from Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth that any attack on American interests in the region would be met with a response. Everyone from American officials to current and former Israeli officials warned Iran against such an attack taking place. Now, while this is limited in nature, it's
Isn't Putin friends with Iran? But Putin can't even take Ukraine. Florida alone. 4 suntanned, crocodile-maxed Floridians on quads would rip and tear Russia.
certainly does bring this entire conflict into a new chapter and raises questions about how the Americans might respond to this direct attack on their largest military base in the Middle East. This is a base that normally houses around 10,000 U.S. personnel. We have reported from the Al Udeid base just outside of Doha. It's about a 30-minute drive from the U.S. Embassy in the Qatari capital. And it's a place where there's a lot of coordination for U.S. Central Command. You might remember back in 2021 when those evacuation flights were taking place. Many of them were landing from Kabul, Afghanistan to Doha, Qatar at this airbase. And so it's a base that was built in the late 90s. It cost around $1 billion to build, and it is still owned by the Qataris. But it is, again, the largest American base in the region, and there is close coordination for U.S. Central Command done out of this base. It was largely evacuated before this took place, and again, according to a spokesman for Qatar's foreign ministry, no one was injured in this missile strike launched by Iran. But again, this shows that the Iranians are willing to respond directly to American interests in the region.
That's not a response. That's a pathetic display of power. 6 soy missiles that got shot down at an empty airbase. Congratulations, failure has been achieved.
And even before the war between Israel and Iran erupted 11 days ago, with this Israeli strike starting against the top IRGC officials, Iranian nuclear scientists, and of course Iran's nuclear program, the United States was preparing for this.
Which didn't exist, by the way. Remember when they told us that, nah, we're not building nukes? No, we don't have underground nuclear facilities. There's no need to use the bunker buster on us. Yeah.
Possibility. You might remember about 2 weeks ago, President Trump ordered a partial evacuation of the U.S. Embassy in Baghdad. There was a voluntary...
I don't think people realize just the insane amount of military hardware America has compared to everyone else. That's what I've been saying. That's why all of this just goes over my head.
Evacuation for the dependents of U.S. Embassy personnel and military spouses and children in places like Bahrain and Kuwait. The United States understood that as a war would develop...
Trump admin said we won't escalate as a result of their failed response. Some are calling for us to escalate. What do you say, chat? Do we have confirmation on that breaking news here at Third Eye Global? Do you have a source for that?
Between Israel and Iran, that U.S. interests in the region could come under attack. And of course, with those U.S. strikes against the Iranian nuclear facilities, those 3 facilities over the weekend, the officials here have been bracing for such a response. Israeli officials, though, remain on high alert, understanding that this is certainly not the end of Iranian response as it relates to Israel. But as for American forces in the region, again, the latest information that we can report attributable to Qatari officials is that there were no injuries in these strikes that took place just earlier this hour. And
people forget the USA's back-to-back world champs. Always have been.
There is initial reporting coming in right now from the New York Times indicating that Iran coordinated the attacks with the American air base in Qatar, and Qatari officials gave advance notice that the attacks were coming to
Imagine Skunk Works releasing the new B-2 bomber. I would goon to it.
Minimize the casualties. Again, that information attributable to the New York Times, but this is not surprising because they did a very similar coordination back in 2020 in response.
I mean, you say that, but we don't really have a success record when it comes to war. We totally lost Vietnam and we fought the Taliban and put the Taliban in charge. I don't get it. When it comes to Vietnam and, say, the Taliban, right? I think we lost because we didn't pull out. Perhaps the objective was off in that napalming entire forests and jungles and turning Vietnam into a parking lot and blowing up caves across the Middle East, like that's a war you can't win. They were straight booby-trapping U.S. soldiers. Tom and Jerry Looney Tunes ass slip on a banana peel, trip and fall into a pit of snakes, and then get decapitated by 3 spikes. It's not worth the loss of life. I would blame the leaders, but if America wanted to completely glass these places or take them over, I feel like they could.
Response to the killing of Qasem Soleimani, that drone strike that President Trump ordered. This was meant to contain possible escalation in the region. And so we'll work on matching that reporting from the New York Times, but it would not be surprising that the Iranians wanted to coordinate their response as to not drag more officials and militaries in the region into the current war that is escalating between Israel and Iran. Guys?
You know, as you're on the air, Trey, and you probably can't see it, we're getting...
Yeah, they hit us with the poisoned bamboo like a fucking Mortal Kombat fatality. You're not beating that.
Some pretty spectacular footage of the missile intercepts there. We don't know if it was all just American Patriot missiles or if there were other anti-missile devices that were set up into the sky as well, but it's looking very much like Israel did over the last couple of weeks. Apparently, the Iranians have given this a name, Operation Fatah's Blessing, against the American Al Udeid air base in Qatar.
It's just no aura. Fatwa's blessing.
This question to you. So we saw the response at the...
Response. I enjoyed the light show. Nice fireworks you got there.
Al-Assad air base, and somewhere up to 17 missiles fell on the Al-Assad air base. The fact that this was very limited, Iran says we matched the number of missiles to the number of bombs that were dropped on Iran. We had a number of 6 given to us by the Israelis, which would be far below the number of bombs that were dropped on Iran. I mean, does this suggest that this is merely a symbolic response so that the Iranian regime can say,
yes, that's exactly what it is.
We punched America in the nose, whereas really, I mean, they didn't even ruffle a hair on our forehead.
I don't think they tweezed a single pubic hair off our enormous American penis.
Yeah, absolutely. And they do this often to try and contain possible escalation in the region. We were on the ground in Baghdad, Iraq, when that other ballistic missile attack took place back.
How many people live in Iran? $90 million?
Back in 2020, and there was an understanding that American interests could be moved. There was a warning to U.S. troops to prepare to get into shelters. There were a lot of minor injuries for forces then from the blast of those missiles back in 2020. But this coordination does take place to try and contain escalation. And in terms of Iran's capabilities across the region, it's important to remember that Iran...
How is there this much people? Yeah. I mean, say what you want about the Middle East, but they be putting in the work. You know where.
Within their own country, and the Israelis have gone after these ballistic missile launching positions and other IRGC capabilities, weapons storage facilities, for example. The Iranians still have the ability to operate from other countries. They can, through their proxies, these Iran-backed Iraqi and Syrian Shia militias, launch limited attacks with missiles and rockets toward American interests in the region. And there are no reports indicating that that has taken place. And so Iran still has the ability to ratchet up the pressure against American interest in the Middle East. But it appears here they are trying to coordinate some possible response as to not drag the United States more directly into the fight. There's an understanding that the American...
Iran's next move? Sit on their hands and wait it out? That's because women aren't allowed outside. Yeah. They're just constantly birthing children.
Have a capacity and they have weapons that the Israelis do not.
Peace talks? That's a funny way of saying you're gonna do as you're told.
Have and a willingness, if American forces or interests in the region come under attack, to get more directly involved in the fight. And the regime in Tehran has been extremely weakened following the 11-day campaign that the Israelis have launched not only against their new...
So what would have to happen for a total regime change in Iran?
nuclear facilities, but also against top.
The U.S. military is a giga-cracked, super chud, absolute unit of a force. Super chud.
IRGC officials. Remember, in that opening wave, the Israelis took out nearly the entire chain of command for the IRGC Air Force commanders in the Iranian capital of Tehran. We've spoken with top
Total Yakubian victory.
Israeli intelligence officials who have described to Fox News how they are systematically hunting down Iranian officials. And this gives you a sense of how their military chain of command has been decimated over the past week and a half. And so they're still able to coordinate this response. There is an understanding that this is a very large country, more than 90 million people in Iran. And so, of course,
I don't think people realize how ridiculous it is to wage ground war in Iran. Why do you say that?
they knew that if there was going to be a regional war, it would come in waves. And so they have capabilities. They still can target U.S. interests in the region. But again, it appears today that they've tried to limit this with just targeting initially this U.S. base just outside of Doha, Qatar. And according to reports, coordinate their response as to not drag the United States into the war more directly. Guys?
All right. Trey, also just want to get this in here. Bahrain now says it has shut down airspace.
I'm just so sad at the idea that so many Americans have died in the name of sand. It's not even a cool biome.
Based temporarily amid fears of retaliation by Iran against these U.S. attacks. Also, Rich Edson reporting for us has just informed us that President Trump is not yet in that situation, the situation room for that security meeting.
Trump is finishing up the back nine. He's got to get a couple birdies and eagles real quick. Maybe get a glizzy at the halfway house, then he'll make a game time decision. I exposed Iran protesters, and yeah, I checked with the base department. It's Iran, not Iran.
Do you want to see Israel destroyed?
Yeah.
It's what the nation is talking about, the war with Iran. I went to the big protests in New York City to speak to both sides and all the nuance in between. I will also be exposing the professional protesters that I encounter. Enjoy and welcome back to the Nate Friedman Show.
I noticed there's a trans flag on the library.
I don't even know what there is to debate. Everyone's soy-facing World War III! First of all, nothing ever happens. Okay? As far as I'm aware, we were all just psyoped into believing that Iran didn't have nuclear proliferation, when in fact they did. And Friday night, 123, B-2 bombers dropped a bunker buster, and it already happened by the time we found out that we were even doing it. Targets destroyed. You think Iran is going to counterattack the U.S.? Well, they are. Currently, they launched 6 missiles towards Qatar, or as the media calls it, Qatar. Whether those will do any damage has yet to be seen. We have over 10,000 troops stationed there at an airbase. But that level of escalation, it's not going to go over well. I mean, you're poking the bear. You're taunting the bald eagle.
But this is a protest for Iran, and they don't allow gay people in Iran. So can you explain?
That's true. If you're gay in Iran, they chop your dick off and turn you into a woman.
Kind of the irony of that?
Do you understand the irony of what the Supreme Court, the question you're asking me, and what the Supreme Court just decided for trans kids today?
Yeah.
In our Supreme Court, do you know what decision they made?
Yeah, they're not allowing trans kids anymore.
That's
I'm so over this whole Transformer shit, Decepticons. I don't care. My opinion is simple. Paying a doctor thousands of dollars to chop off your manhood is psychotic. Period, point blank.
allowing that surgery to happen.
And that's what I'm going to leave it at.
Yeah. Do you believe that we should mutilate children?
I'm going to leave it at that. Thank you.
So what she's talking about is that the Supreme Court upheld Tennessee's law banning gender-affirming care for minors. They ruled that it doesn't violate the 14th Amendment. Now, it actually didn't have anything to do with the surgeries even, but moving forward, this means that states are allowed to ban puberty blockers and hormone treatments for transgender kids under 18.
Oh, you mean like chemical castration?
If they want to. It wasn't actually even
I actually love mutilating children. Now what?
putting a federal ban on becoming a transgender minor in this country. They've just let the state...
Yeah, they need the dad cycle. What is it, 200 test, 50 Anavar?
decide about puberty blockers. And that so-called discrimination, she's saying, is on the same level as Iran executing gay people. That's not speculation either. Iran's top diplomat says that his country executes gay people because of, quote, moral principles. Now, she's out here protesting for Iran in front of a trans flag, and she's holding this...
Isn't gay gooner material very popular in the Middle East? I wonder why.
Sign for one man, and his name is George Soros. Watch this. That sign she's holding goes to a website, answercoalition.org. It stands for Act Now to Stop War and End Racism. They were founded over 20 years ago, and their primary fiscal sponsor is the Progress Unity Fund. The Progress Unity Fund gets their money from the Tides Foundation. Now, guess who gave the Tides Foundation $25.8 million
Tell me.
in just 1 year? George Soros.
It doesn't matter what content we cover, this name just appears every single time. And I really don't like to engage with the retarded conspiratorial grifters who just latch on to surface level esoteric thinking. But there's a lot of coincidences. I don't know. It's the midwit curve, right? The top wit, the bottom wit always come to the same conclusion, and everyone in the middle is...
Now, this goes even deeper, but I'll save that for later in the video because this right here is
George Soros, more like George Slopos.
one of the craziest interviews that I've ever done.
Can you tell me what you're doing out here?
Isn't it obvious?
No, tell us.
Protesting.
Protesting.
Oh my god, dude, she's got a Zoran pin. I can't wait to have a socialist mayor who platforms Hassan Piker. Oh, New York is gonna be the utopia of soy.
Doing what?
Pro-Iran, pro-Palestine,
Yeah.
anti-Israel,
And when you say pro-Iran, are you talking about the government or the people?
both. Definitely the government.
Definitely the government.
Yeah, I mean the people in the government, but yeah, I'm thrilled about the Iranian government.
You are thrilled about it?
Yeah, I mean it's the only country that stands up to Israel.
Yeah. Were you at
We'll
the...
hopefully destroy it.
Yeah. Okay.
Iran is the only country that stands up to Israel and will hopefully destroy it. Not exactly a call for peace that you'd expect to hear at a protest like this.
What a nice American citizen.
One of the things that, like, the Iran government, and that's what I've heard from some of the Israel side, they said that they make you wear a hijab, and that is, like, crazy to make the people do. So what is your response to that?
We're going to overthrow the government because of that? I mean, it's obvious bullshit like everything else.
Yeah, no,
I mean, it's bullshit that Israel really, or that they give a about that.
Listen, I love women. I never want to see them in a hijab. Are you kidding me? Yeah, but it's their choice, Philion. Some women love it. No aura.
You know, I wish the Iranian government didn't do that. And again, I think they have like bigger issues than that. And it's really stupid to piss off the population for no reason. And they've definitely eased up. Like there are protests against Israel now in Iran with women without hijabs.
Imagine you're just a casual Bob. He's a reoccurring character on this channel. He's an ideological figment of our imagination. Picture him as the NPC Wojak. 9 to 5. His idea of winding down is one singular cold beer on a Friday night. Perhaps he catches a singular sports game. Mows the lawn on Saturday. No real friends. Family has grown distant. He's just a guy trying to get by. He's like me for real, for real. And then you're just surrounded by this global conflict, political strife and division, when bro literally just wants to actualize a little bit. It's crazy. I guess a casual Bob is middle of the road in terms of agency, is doing everything by the book and as he was told, and for it he only gets perpetually shit on in ways that he doesn't even know.
That still want to destroy, against Israel, that still want to destroy Israel, and they're not wearing hijabs.
The guy that gets stopped in traffic with a bunch of soy libs in LA, who's slowly becoming radicalized. There's a lot of those.
I have not found any credible reports of women without hijabs calling for the destruction of Israel and Iran. There have been many anti-hijab protests that result in many arrests, although
I'm rambling, or even schizo-ranting, but it's impossible to be normal now. And that's exactly what Casual Bob represents. A simpler time.
Most famously when Mahsa Amini was killed in police custody over wearing an improper hijab. That started multiple protests against the regime, and counter-protests began with people saying death to Israel and death to America, and they were the ones wearing hijabs.
So again, it's bullshit. It's like Afghanistan. We started the Afghanistan war for women, to get educated. Now we left and we don't give a flying after we destroyed it. So it's usual propaganda because they think ignorant.
How do you defend the repression of women? I don't get it. How is that not an immediate what the fuck moment?
Americans are going to go, yay, women, we care about women, we don't care about, but fortunately most Americans know that bigger issues.
You would say that you do have issues with the Iranian government.
I wish they didn't enforce the hijab. Again, it's not a hijab, it's a headscarf. They wear like the loose, headscarf. Yeah. But
yeah, right. Mm-hmm.
I don't think women, I'm against countries like France that forbid wearing the hijab. I think women should be able to do whatever the hell they
France-based.
want.
So France does allow hijabs. In fact, by the look of how Europe is doing right now,
Iran in the 50s and 60s was very different. Women had rights. Then Israel ruined it for everyone. That's my understanding. I don't believe that's the correct understanding. 1953, MI6 CIA staged a coup to get rid of Mossadegh, the prime minister, and install the Shah, who was pro-West. And they had beautiful Enlightenment years. And then the Islamic Revolution in 1979 took us back a couple centuries. That's my understanding of it.
Could argue that it's encouraged. The French Soccer Federation did ban participants in competitions from wearing religious symbols such as hijabs, and the French also don't allow you to wear conspicuous religious symbols in public and secondary schools. Now, both of those bans prompted many protests with women wearing hijabs, so by no means is the hijab completely banned in France.
Iran is funding Hamas and Hezbollah. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah.
Do you feel like that's a good thing to do?
Of course.
Okay. And why is it a good thing?
Resistance to
understand. No, I completely get it.
Israeli
Yeah.
crimes.
Yeah,
occupation crimes.
I understand.
Absolutely.
I understand. So they think how could you fund Hamas because Hamas did October 7th? What are your thoughts on that?
Resistance.
Yeah.
Resistance is actually legal. Resistance to illegal criminal occupation is actually legal. Israel does not have the right to defend itself against the people it's occupying, but the people it's occupying have the right to resist.
It's the Marxist oppressor versus oppressed dynamic. It is a brick wall when dealing with a leftist. You lose the argument entirely. You might as well go home, pack it up, try again. Never. Because these people aren't interested in nuance. They're set in their ways. So going to these protests and asking questions is just farming content.
Gaza wasn't even occupied. Israel withdrew in 2005, and according to her, Israel should have let Hamas eliminate as many Jews, Arabs, and Christians living in Israel because Israel doesn't have a right to defend itself. This woman living in America is pro-Hamas, pro-Hezbollah, and according to her pin, she's Jewish. If you ever wondered how in the world there were Jews who supported Hitler, well, now you're getting to know one of them who would have. The Association of German National Jews was an anti-Zionist and anti-communist movement. They thought that Hitler would rescue them from this horrible movement called Zionism and save them from communism. They just ignored how Hitler wanted them dead, and of course that's what happened. Just like now, Hamas has been clear since its inception that they want—
I'm just dead fucking tired of the sandbox. Give us a new biome.
to eliminate every Jew on earth, and yet this woman just said that she supports them. She is the biggest chicken for KFC that I have ever encountered. This woman you are listening to right now is also saying that the kidnapping and murder of the Bebas babies counted as resistance.
So the military part, which it was originally started as a military action, and then it ended up being too easy. And yes, after they broke out, some other people followed or whatever. I'm against, the civilian deaths, although a lot of the civilian deaths were the Hannibal Directive, like Israel killed them. But yeah, so, and the rapes and the child beheadings, that's all bull crap, like that didn't happen. But there were, they killed some civilians. I'm against that. The attack on the military base.
Hold on, I'm confused. You're saying you're against, because I think the number's like 1,200, right?
Again, Israel killed a lot of them,
okay,
yeah.
Right, I understand.
I think I think it's like that was original. I think it got lower.
So you are against you. Okay, but you're against the.
This is a Zionist propaganda video. Well, every single video we watch is some form of propaganda. Here at Third Eye Global, you're getting the deep dive you can't find anywhere else. We stay on top of the slop, in the trenches, no matter what.
Civilian deaths in Israel? You are against it?
I'm against the civilian. Like, I'm against the few civilians that Hamas killed. Again, Israel killed most of them.
When you say a few, so are you saying that Israel killed like 1,000 of them?
Hamas, it was mostly an attack on the military bases that were like surrounding, Gaza. And then again, they assumed that they were all going to get killed. But then they didn't, because that operation was too easy, because IDF only knows how to kill unarmed civilians. And then they were roaming around, and they did end up killing some civilians.
If I hear another foghorn, I'm gonna crash out.
Which I am against.
Shut the fuck up!
Because I watched the footage of October 7th, the like uncensored, footage.
They killed some civilians.
And I saw that like on the kibbutzes that they're killing. Are you including that? And you're saying
I'm including that.
Wow. Okay. Hamas filmed their own atrocities on October 7th, most of which you can still find online. To claim they only killed a few civilians is a blatant and pathological lie. As for the Hannibal Directive, it has nothing to do with targeting civilians. Its sole purpose is to prevent Israeli soldiers from being taken hostage, which can sometimes involve risk.
Yeah, I'm getting soy-induced flashbacks to that woman with the kazoo.
The soldier's life to stop an abduction in progress. It's a policy that has—
Anyone denying the atrocities committed on October 7th is a Looney Tune. A lot of people deny it. They can't even denounce it. They hit you with the downplay tech. Well, actually, it was justified. Could you imagine? Chilling at a concert. All of a sudden, guys come in on leaf blowers and lawnmowers and just start lighting everyone up. Pillaging civilians. Crazy.
has been retired for nearly a decade, and there were some reports that it may have been reinvoked on the 7th, but it's very irresponsible to compare an extremely niche case of preventing horrific captivity of a soldier to Hamas intentionally targeting children. Now, the protest is about to move toward Times Square, but I didn't want to end the interview just yet, as I felt that we were getting closer to the truth.
Is October 7th what started this? So it's my understanding that October 7th was the catalyst for Israel to go sicko mode in the Middle East. You got Hamas and Hezbollah. You got the Houthis. You got 56 Muslim majority countries. Israel's the only Jewish place, besides them being welcome in the West. You have the whole West Bank and Gaza situation, right? The systematic G word going on. It's just a messy situation. But the problem is, when there is an attack, it's often used as a green light for retaliation. And the retaliation has an infinite budget and intelligence and equipment that is unbeatable. It's a bit of a mess there, ain't it?
Truth behind this movement.
Do you want to see Israel destroyed?
What?
Do you want to see Israel destroyed?
Yeah. Well,
I mean, your pin says you're Jewish, right?
at this point, I do. I used to believe in the one democratic state solution. But, okay.
Essentially, you have Iran waging proxy wars with Israel via Hamas and Hezbollah. And then it gets stickier with the Sunni versus Shia division. Or if you're a Houthi, the Twelver. All these offshoots of radical Islam and terrorist violence.
So Iran is not like carpet bombing. They're not doing a Gaza and Israel. They're going for military targets. So yes, I want them to destroy bases, the Mossad headquarters, the airfields,
Bro, she's literally smiling with glee.
I would love for them to assassinate Netanyahu, Ben Gvir, and Smotrich, especially Ben Gvir and Smotrich. I don't care about Netanyahu.
Can you say that? That's fucking insane.
I would love for them to do that, yes.
Okay. And
weaken it to the point where it can be like imploded from
would
within.
Would you say that it's fine if millions of Jews died in that process?
What?
Did she not just call for the assassination?
Would you say that it's okay if millions of Jews died in that process to that pursuit?
Well, as long as the Israeli government is using them as hostages. Do you know they're not allowing them to leave? Like Israeli citizens are not. What does that tell you?
Well, she's finally said the quiet part out loud. She is perfectly okay with a genocide if it means taking out two political opponents. A genocide of her own people, by the way. Now, of course, it's evil. That's hard to comprehend, but at least you are hearing it for yourself.
People are too comfortable talking about killing millions in public. We're just not gonna make it, dude. Chat, the black pill is looking very enticing. Nothing ever happens, we're so cooked. Maybe they're one and the same.
And it's not something that you have to guess anymore. As for Israel, quote, not letting their citizens out, yeah, closing the airport because you are being bombed by Iran isn't exactly imprisoning your citizens. It's keeping them safe in the bomb shelters, which are built in Israel and not in Gaza because Israel values human life and Hamas does not. So who's behind these claims? Who's funding this movement that she's a part of? Keep watching as I'm about to tell you. But first, did you see that Khalil actually got released? Now, I had gone to many of the protests and researched Khalil extensively, and I have to say that I am quite surprised. Now, sources on the left are calling it a win over an authoritarian takeover, while sources on the right are...
This is just unemployed behavior, bro. As a Western young man, what am I supposed to do? right? I was told to go to college, get an education. You need a degree in today's world. Now I have debt. I'm not even using my fucking degree. And luckily I got in and got out, right? I didn't get to walk and get my diploma. It was sent to me in the mail because of the coronavirus. But now all I see at these institutions are a bunch of masked up, triple vaxxed, soy-faced protesters screaming at the top of their lungs, eating seed oil sandwiches. And dude, you see, it was a simpler time back in 2016 to 2019. I just wanted to get my Chipotle with double steak and guac. I just wanted to lift exorbitant amounts of weight to feel something. And I just can't put myself in the position of walking on campus and having myself subjected to these harpy shrills. God. Colleges are not these upper echelon academia, utopic gardens of fucking knowledge. No. They're like breeding grounds for political grooming and echo chamber nonsense.
Highlighting that the judge was appointed by Biden. The easiest way to see this contrast in the media is by using ground news. It's almost as if you had every news source all in one place and you can carefully see what each side is saying and, even more importantly, not saying. I use ground news to prepare for my videos because it helps me gain a new perspective before talking to protesters.
I should have just majored in fucking biology or exercise science, science, like Mike Israetel. That's real. Muscle is actual. That exists. Me when I majored in gender studies and can't find a job.
For example, maybe you saw, maybe you didn't, that Trump said Tulsi was wrong about Iran and Israeli strikes. 10 out of the 13 sources that covered it leaned toward the left. Now, whenever there's a disagreement in the administration, it tends to get more covered on the left. I still want to know about those stories, and that's why I use Ground News Blind Spot feed. It doesn't just show you what's trending, it exposes what each side is choosing not.
The internet has destroyed discourse. Yeah. Between dead internet, artificial intelligence, no barrier to entry to use social media, I mean, we get actual mouth-breathing troglodytes. I mean, I'm getting bunker busted by fucking bombs out here with the gifted subs, the donos. I mean, holy buckets, dude.
To cover. You should consider getting ground news just for the entertainment factor of knowing why that person in your life sees news the complete opposite way that you do, or because you genuinely want to stay informed regardless of who is covering the story.
Channel 5 has this ad too. Dude, they all do. It's all slop. When are people gonna realize that my hypothesis, my memorandum, is true and based? No matter what you watch, what you consume, it's all the fucking same. So you might as well just dive in and sift through it yourself. This is propaganda. This guy's a shill. This guy's a grifter. Everyone's trying to get their bag. Everyone's trying to make it. Everyone's trying to find purpose in this here life for the limited amount of time that we have. A lot of people late to the stream, but guess what? You're still early to the movement.
Ground News is such a great fit for us that you can get 40% off of the same plan that I use, which is the Vantage plan. Go to ground.news/Friedman, the link is in the description, or just scan the QR code. You'll be taking control of your news while directly supporting this channel and helping me to continue to have security at these protests.
I hope this guy got paid $4 million for that ad. I'm so serious. This is a meta talk, but ads are drying up faster than the Sahara Desert. A lot of creators absolutely cooked. You want to make it as a YouTuber these days? Good luck, pal. Good luck, clown bozo. Go hit the oil rig. Put the fries in the bag. Start 9 to 5 maxing. It's over.
And now, back to the interviews. So last thing you tell me.
I bet leftists think ground news is right-wing propaganda. That's not true because Channel 5, aka Andrew Callahan, is also sponsored by Ground News, and he's a leftist.
It's interesting.
For them to be able to leave, but if the government doesn't allow them to leave, oh well.
So you're Jewish, right?
They empowered that government. Yes, I am.
you're Jewish.
I'm a long-time anti-Zionist.
Okay. Well, so tell me, like, the common criticism is that there's 7 million
What is bro doing in the back? He is off the perk or something, dude.
Jews in Israel. You are Jewish. People say, what's going to happen to the Jews in Palestine from the river to the sea? What's going to happen to those Jews? So what do you say to the Jews who are pro-Zionist?
Normally, from the river to the sea meant a democratic state with equal rights from the river to the sea, which is what I believe in. Like, I'm anti-Zionist. I'm not for genocide or ethnic cleansing of Jews. I'm for.
But you just said that you were okay if a million Jews died.
If the government decides to use them as human shields, then they need to overthrow the government, I guess.
Isn't Israel?
Shouldn't they overthrow the government?
The HRification of women needs to be studied.
Isn't that what Zionists are telling Iranians to do?
You're just saying.
Isn't that what?
At this point, I would go up to the nearest cinder block and bash my head into the wall. Holy buckets!
They're telling Palestinians to
It's
do?
a very interesting perspective because you're Jewish and you're saying it's okay that a million Jews die.
I mean, I don't think Iran is interested in, like, carpet bombing Israel.
They've said death to Israel.
They're not carpet bombing Israel. They're targeting, like, actual targets.
Israel has an Iron Dome, though, no?
Yeah, and it's not working, obviously. I mean, it's not. Like, it works with, like, homemade,
This woman has severe CTE to say it's okay if a government uses its citizenry as human shields.
Hamas and Hezbollah rockets, or Hezbollah ones are not homemade, but like, Iran has some really serious rockets. Like,
The hottest thing on the screen is in the bottom left. Sheesh! Isn't that true, dude? Imagine watching other streamers with chopped physiognomy. I wouldn't be able to do that. I would have to turn it off.
the hypersonic ones, it's not getting.
The fact that I have demonstrated the agency to bench over 225 pounds alone should be the differentiating factor. I mean, not many are doing that. And that's level 1. We have layers here at Third Eye Global like an onion.
Like, at all. Like, it hasn't gotten, like, it's like they're hitting the targets.
Yeah.
So, yeah,
Okay. What do you do for work?
I don't.
You don't work? Why not?
I don't have to.
Unemployed.
So you did well.
I haven't worked since I was 27.
Now, I think she actually is working and as a professional protester. Here's her protesting without her sunglasses on. She usually does have them on. Here's her saying HP profits from Israel's torture of Palestinian political prisoners. Here's her saying democracy is not for sale. Back again with the
Dude, I never would have guessed that.
Palestine flag, and again with the South African flag. Now, it's not just her, as we know that they work in teams.
I just love that there's professional protesters.
Look at this blonde woman beside her. I found her at more protests than any other paid protester I've exposed in the past. I found her at close...
Yo, when AdSense dries up, you know my next pivot. I'll be undercover, though.
to 50 different protests, all within a couple of years. So who's behind this team of people chanting...
Yo, Phil, is there a possibility that you agreed with some points, you low-key disagree just because the huge milkers and a fat dumper? No shot. No way, dude. I'm not falling for the psyop of flesh. You think I'm convinced? Listen, it's a trap. A lot of guys my age are absolutely whipped by females, by the femoids. It's very, very prevalent if you live in New York City or a metropolis, because what you have is a lot of liberal arts students and turbo diversity for the sake of diversity, not necessarily just because that's what it is, but it's this hyper-localized fish tank or echo chamber that essentially starts post-college into early adulthood, where they get careers and email jobs, or they work at a coffee shop and have 57 nose rings and tattoos. Like, these people fall into very specific archetypes, right? And this can get pretty schizo pretty fast. But what you'll have is a lot of men who want female attention. They want to find a partner. They have to suspend their opinions, politics, and beliefs to fit in, to not be too abrasive. They will not stand on business. So they'll fold like a lawn chair. It's essentially a roundabout way of putting the Badusi on a pedestal. And guys get one-shotted by it. And then they'll joke with each other in their group chats about it. Like there's a self-awareness about it. But, yeah, man. It's brutal out here.
For Israel's destruction on America's streets. Their name is Sami Dune. It's an organization based in Canada, and they are sanctioned by Canada as a terrorist group. In fact, in October of 2024, US and Canada issued joint statements listing Sami Dune as a terrorist entity. Canada called them a sham charity who funnels money into the Popular Front for the Liberation of Palestine, which is a Marxist organization that recognizes a one-state solution.
Like, there's funny tweets on X about dating in the city, and it essentially boils down to like staying on top of geopolitical problems and positioning yourself in such a way to maximize getting laid. It's dark triad as fuck, but go talk to a guy living in Brooklyn and you'll see what I mean. The male manipulator type with the carabiner, with the 57 keys and the performative Carhartt.
With no Israel. Germany banned the group after members of Sami Dune passed out candy celebrating October 7th. The founder of Sami Dune at a rally in Vancouver publicly called Hamas heroic on the 7th and said that Hamas and Hezbollah don't engage in terrorism. If you look at the photos of this woman I interviewed, they almost all come from Sami Dune's website. Now, the Tides Foundation and the Tides Center is behind this, and you remember the chief donor of the Tides.
Dude, I've had people in my life stop talking to me without a conversation because of political hyperstitions. Just assumptions about me and the way I've been moving without any sort of open discourse, dialogue, or conversation. And I could just chalk it up to, it's like, yo, you're living in a goddamn fish tank. I step outside. This is the real world. I have somewhat lived experience. I'm able to discern and use my judgment and come to my own thoughts and opinions.
Foundation, George Soros. However, all you see is that the Alliance for Global Justice is their fiscal sponsor. But if you lift the hood, you see that Soros gives to Tides, Tides gives to AFGJ, which then gives to Sami Dune. Soros, along with the New Venture Fund, gave more than $9 million to the AFGJ, which again is the fiscal sponsor of Sami Dune. They want it to look complicated so you don't see this, but make no mistake, Soros is funding this. It is also important to note that you can't even donate to the AFGJ with Stripe or PayPal or any normal methods, as all of those companies consider them terrorists. Yet they are still walking the streets of New York City.
Isn't George Soros Jewish? What is the tech here? What is the angle?
He's screaming for the downfall of America. Next up, I saw this big argument happening and wanted to know what was going on.
What's going on?
Bro, relax. So, would anybody like one? No.
What is this about?
It's a picture of Katia with Bin Laden.
Can you show the camera?
Very good. Yeah.
Okay, what's your? Can you?
No. I think you forget what happened.
Can you tell us, sir? Can you tell us what he's doing?
He's trying to provoke people by handing out pictures of Khomeini, pictures of Bin Laden.
Yeah.
And I want to see a picture of Donald Trump, because Donald Trump is a fraud. Don't you get it?
Can you
They're
explain?
killing people with your money.
Yeah. So we want
They're
to.
massacring children with your money.
It's a valid crash out. I'm getting drained from everyone, dude. And it doesn't even feel good.
Who's massacring? Explain to the audience.
I think it's called Israel.
Okay.
It's called the government of Israel. It's not a Jewish, it's not a Christian, it's a country. When a country commits a war crime, you have to blow the whistle. It's a war crime.
No, it's not.
They're killing. If you tell me you're good. Why don't you go back to Israel and fight for what you believe in? So don't stand around. Hey, take Khomeini with you. Good. You take Bibi and go shove him up here.
You're an angry.
No, I'm not. I'm a Brooklynite that hates spending my money on your stupidity.
He's just a New Yorker fed up with some bullshit, dude. I feel it.
Sir, I want the world to understand. Sir, I want the world to understand your perspective. Okay. So, can you explain
Who you work for?
My name is Nate Friedman. I'm an independent journalist.
For who?
I'm a street interviewer. I work for myself.
You don't work for the New York Times, do
No,
you?
I know. What's
Here we go again with
Perpetually gay, dude. Who do you work for? I need to know which PSYOP establishment I can talk to. Does it fit my confirmation bias? Or will I label you a right-wing troll?
with this guy calling me a right-wing troll.
For the New York Times,
No, I know.
Now, I guess he forgot to bring his Soros-printed arrow with him. He's yet again another paid protester. Here's him
Oh my god, this guy's just blowing up everyone's spot.
holding up a sign with this radical left Orthodox Jewish group who I will expose in next week's video, so turn on notifications for that.
Where can I get an independent journalist lanyard? You literally print one out. Nobody takes it serious. Anyone could be a journalist. You just need about 5 minutes in Photoshop. Little key card because it's an appeal to authority, and you know, it's essentially the neon vest theory. You put on a neon vest, automatic respect. You can get into any building. Yes, I'm here to do my annual checkup of the tripwires. Right this way, sir.
They are at the front and center of almost all these protests, and it's time for America to know the truth about them. But first, this paid protester is now trying to call me a troll, and he's wearing a vest with a Palestine flag, and as you know, those two things don't blend very well together, because, well, here is him getting arrested at a different protest, and again and again at the front and center of many more protests. And if you reckon...
Where do the black Israelites fit in all this? They're in Central Park getting fit. Low-key based.
Recognize him or the woman I interviewed, DM me.
What's your issue with the New York Times?
The New York Times is filled with lies about the war in Iraq. They brought us to war in Iraq, and they're doing it again because we shouldn't go to war, because W says mass destruction weaponry.
Okay, but sir,
Nuclear weapons are real.
I want you to shut down the haters, sir. I have a question.
Well, he did have his talking points, but he didn't actually want to have a conversation.
Get paid to shout is the new grift. Always has been.
And he did want to fight people, though. Later on, I did
How does this make my tomato meat sauce taste better? I got you. Got to hit it with the veal pork beef combo. That's coming from an Italian.
see this same guy in another video agitating Israel supporters. And again, these people are very dangerous, and I'm happy to see that the NYPD's presence is growing at these protests. Unfortunately, I found that the guy freaking out and trying to fight Israel protesters is a retired science teacher. Now ask yourself, would you
We're like retired science teacher.
like your kids to be taught by this guy? Now I'm going to show you about a minute of one of the guest speakers at the protest. I will cut through the crowd after and interview him, but I thought that it's important to hear what he's saying to all the NGOs and the unemployed people at this protest.
Why are leftists always screaming, bro? No wonder they always lose.
Speaker, we have Mehmet, an Iranian American and co-founder of EV Loves NYC.
Now, this is incredible. The guy introducing him can't even remember the NGO he works with because there's just too many.
From the belly of the beast.
Oh, you're in the belly of the beast now, bucko.
Hands off the Middle East. So, last week, I was in another protest against the travel ban, and I was talking about how my 77-year-old mom that is living alone in Iran, in Shiraz, is now not able to come to America to see her sons and how she's left alone there. A week later, now her life is in danger. Last 3 nights ago, we had the
Supporting Iran in America is ridiculous. Jeez. Yeah.
bomb that went down 3 blocks from where she lives. All the windows of our house is broken. These are the things that no one want to show you when we are talking about this.
Now, he's protesting here and not in Iran. He's actually against the regime in Iran, and maybe it's because of things like this. I don't know.
Dude, gays for Iran, dude. You don't know about LGBTQ in the Middle East? It's up and coming. It's the hottest new fringe group.
But it would seem as though that not everyone out here protesting for Iran is in support of the Iranian government, which is an important distinction to make.
I haven't been able to go back to Iran for 15 years because the Iranian regime also thinks that I'm enemy, because we stand up, we talk about human rights, we talk about all the things that they do. So they think that we are enemy, American government thinks that we are enemy.
I mean, he was dressed as a woman, so that is fine. That's right.
Just because we stand for what is right. They give you all this bullshit in media that we are doing precision attacks, that we are doing this. What they don't show you is that within 4 nights, 250 civilians have been killed in Iran. Trump comes overnight and be like, people of Tehran, like, evacuate. There are 17 million people, twice the size of New York. Where do they go? What do they do?
Protesting for a country that would kill you for existing is cooked. So I don't really know about the regime change that people want in Iran. When people talk about that or bring it up, are they talking about restoring Iran to be pro-West? Is that the long tech 4D chess move?
That's not how it works.
Trump is going after Iran because he believes that they're building a nuclear weapon. What is your response to that?
So what would be wrong with that?
If they had a nuclear weapon, they would have never dared to go and do any of that. There are videos from 1986, before I was born, that Bibi Netanyahu says the same words, word to word, that they are a couple months away from having nuclear weapon. This has been their scapegoat for over 35 years. This is not a new story. The same way that in Iraq they did weapons of that mass
Zoran pin. Oh my god, dude.
destruction that never ended up existing. It's the same thing. If actually a country had nuclear weapon like North Korea, no one dares touching them. Because Iran stood against Israel, because Iran stood against American imperialism, because Iran stood against like all this unhinged capitalism that is standing in the world, they see them as an adversary that should not exist.
You mentioned in your speech that you're seen as an enemy in Iran, but also an enemy in America. Can you elaborate more how you're an enemy in Iran?
I think going to the gym and actually getting strong has perpetually fried my ability to respect people's words past a certain point because of their physical stature. Like, I don't know. Maybe I'm gay, but broad shoulders, hulking muscles commands respect. Because I know what it took to get that. If everyone's hunched over and has the physiognomy of a turbo gooner, it's kind of hard for me to get on your side, no matter what you're talking about. I don't know. Maybe I just care too much about aesthetic appearances.
Yeah, so In 2009, there was a human uprising after the elections that for people, like they called it Green Revolution. I went back to Iran.
No, it's not just me. It's not just me. It's a lot of men, particularly. Because if you look at, say, a recent video that we just posted talking about why men are moving to the right, where it featured a large, calorically dense individual and a soy boy, no man will ever take those two people seriously because the values don't align with their words. It requires a synergistic model or aspirational ideal or goal that offers meaning to a path of man. Men are drawn to hard work, leadership, responsibility, logic, humor.
I started fighting, like on the streets. We were fighting the Revolutionary Guard. We were fighting all these people, like all the regime there. So after that, after I had to run away from Iran, like they made propaganda videos that I am a CIA agent with like the Samsonites of money from America going there like to topple the regime. So on that side, they think that America, just because we stood for what
Socrates spoke of this. The Greeks knew what I'm saying, dude. This is not radical. This is not a new idea.
right and what human rights is. And now here, just because we say what
instead of people shitting on Asman's ideas, most people just shit on his lifestyle, living conditions, that he's a depressed wretch that won't clean his house instead. Yeah, those are ad hominems. And in many ways, he's able to farm it because that's the only criticism he really gets. Because sure, they'll mask them attacking his ideas, but it always turns into, you're disgusting, you're the rat king, you're the roach king. Take a shower, you look like a ghoul. I don't really get hate. I'm too handsome. I'm too locked in and in control. Like, what are you going to say? I have a third eye on my forehead? Congratulations. It's Third Eye Global.
America is doing is wrong, they call us Iranian agents.
I see. For Americans that are worried when they hear Iranian parliament chant death to America, what is...
And I'm always clean thanks to Cheeky. Code Philion. Use cheeky.com/Philion. 10% off. Best soap in the game. Some of you could use some touching grass. That's clean.
Your reservation, how can you reassure those Americans after they see those videos?
Okay, first, I don't support that, just to be clear. But I'm saying that even that means like Iran and America have never been enemies. If you cannot name one time in history that Iran attacked America or did anything.
What about when they took the hostages in 1979?
Obviously, that was very fucked up, and even then was like a retaliation of like the Shah in there. But I'm happy anyway. That was 40 years ago. A lot of those issues are gone. But I'm talking about the modern times, like in the last 20, 30 years. Like Iran has never attacked any of the American soldiers or attacked any of American like bases or anything there.
Now, I really appreciate him taking the time to talk with me, especially after he had just given a speech. He was super open, so I just wanted to first say that. But his claim that Iran has never killed American soldiers in modern history is not true. If you go by the proxies, Hezbollah did kill over...
They literally just launched missiles at Qatar, where we have over 10,000 military personnel stationed.
600 U.S. troops in Iraq.
Dude sounds like Bruno, but looks like Borat. Yeah, he's Sacha Baron Cohen pilled.
2003 to 2011. Now, this guy was very clear that he believed that Israel was committing a genocide, the usual stuff. However, again, it seemed like he was very against the Iranian regime, which, without being on the ground, you wouldn't necessarily know that. So next up, I saw a small presence of Israel flags at the protest and went to speak to them.
I think it's important for the world. They're here, they're making a lot of noise. We're small in numbers, but we're small in like the...
It's an empty base, by the way, no one's there. Did they clear it out? Right before this video, we looked up how many military personnel are stationed in the Middle East, and we were told that 10,000 troops or support personnel were at that airbase. And we intercepted all the missiles.
The voice of the world, but we're a lot of people and we stand here to support Israel and America and against the Iranian regime that's oppressing the Iranian people.
Yeah. What's the justification for striking Iran? I don't know, I'm not the president, dude. My walnut-sized brain understanding of it is that Iran was supposed to have a non-nuclear proliferation treaty, which they signed, meaning they were to stop developing nuclear weapons at all costs, period, point blank, no exceptions. And they had multiple nuclear facilities up and running, gunning towards a nuclear bomb. So 1, that is a violation of the treaty. 2, that's a lie. Third of all, they're funding Hezbollah and Hamas, which is a threat to Israel. And I'm not sharing my opinion on this, but from an American-Israel alliance perspective, that's a huge problem.
So I just spoke to one of the speakers here, and he says he's actually against the Iranian regime. He feels like he's an enemy here, he feels like he's an enemy there, but he says that bombs are not the solution to this. So what do you say to that?
I think that for 20 years the Iranian regime has ruled Iran and have made it very clear that the only way that they will go out is through violence. There's been multiple peace deals that failed. They were supposed to not have a nuclear weapon, and now we see that they were only a couple of days away from having it. So how do you have a nuclear deal and also build nuclear bombs? And the only way to disarm terrorists is to forcefully disarm them. Iranian threats towards the Jewish people, you can't have a nation. Look at what they've done with ballistic missiles and drones. We can only imagine what Israel and the USA would look like if they had a nuclear bomb.
So what needs to be done in order to stop this chaos?
In Iran or in Gaza?
Just between Iran, US, and Israel.
I think that the Iranian regime needs to step down. They need to step aside. They need to learn that the world is not going to accept them oppressing the Iranian people and the entire world, and that they're a threat to Western civilization and peace. And until they step down, the war will...
Is social media to blame for all of this radicalization? Because I swear to God, maybe I was just too young to even realize what was going on. This level of political discourse was non-existent. Like, I'm sure people were political, but now everyone wants to share their opinion. Was I too young? Was this just going on at all times? Or is this is new heights? Everyone thinks they're a fucking glasses-pushing expert, which is a huge lesson in the Dunning-Kruger. All these people think they're smarter than they actually are.
Will continue, and we won't stop until they are no longer a threat to us here and in Israel.
What are your thoughts on how President Trump is handling this situation?
I think that President Trump has...
And what's so cooked is, right, in terms of competency, you have like 2 paths. In order to get really good at something, let me pull up the chart. Okay. Whenever you learn a new skill, dive into a new topic, maybe even play a sport, whatever it is, your confidence will go up as your competency goes up. But you're really not that good. You're at the peak of Mount Stupid. And then you have this ego death realization, this valley of despair, where you are acquiring skill points in whatever talent tree that you're speccing into, with the slope of enlightenment, plateau of sustainability, right? So in order to be actually smart, actually well-versed, and actually good at something, it requires, through this peak of Mount Stupid to slope of enlightenment, a lot of time, blood, sweat, and tears, or a lot of money. And I only say a lot of money because with a lot of money, you have a lot of resources, so you can kind of speed run, like the best of the best, to acquire skills faster in this hypothetical scenario. So a lot of people are here at the peak of Mount Stupid. They haven't been actually doing this shit for long enough. And the people all the way over here are too fucking fed up to even... Like the peak of Mount Stupid, since there's a lot more people, they're louder than the plateau of sustainability. And the people at the plateau of sustainability see how the sausage is made in the first place and get blackpilled and don't even want to engage with it in the first place. So what you're seeing is just a shit ton of this. And the problem is, nobody has the grit or the time to go through this slope of enlightenment. And nobody has any money anyway, so they can't even speed run it.
Has put up a very confusing argument. The media manipulation that went into this attack we're learning more and more about it every day. We're learning about how the US was in it and Trump was still telling Israel to back off while secretly planning with Bibi this attack in Iran. And really there's no way to know what Trump says is true or not true, or what he's saying and what's reliable. And we just have to wait and see what, between him and Bibi and the Israeli and American government, what they come up with. I think that the world really needs to learn that, like, the Iranian people are supporting...
The more you know, the less you know that you know. And I think that's why Jordan Peterson gets a lot of heat. Oh, here we go again. Right-wing grifter Philion running defense for JP. No, it's true. That's why whenever he answers a question, he can't hit you with the 1-2 combo of straight facts. It's like, well, I don't know, bucko. What are we even talking about in the first place? Because bro knows that he doesn't know everything.
Us and the true Iranians before the IRGC and the non-indoctrinated people support us, and they're here for us, and we get...
That's right. At the plateau of sustainability, the verdict to anything is always, wow, this is all so stupid. It is a sobering dose of reality that everything that you just worked for was probably not important in the first place. If you talk to any higher academic who went through 8 to 12 years of education to get their PhD, they're like, academia's fucked, and this was completely pointless. You become a YouTuber for over 8 years, you're like, wow, why would I ever make a commentary video again when I could just be a React Giga Chad? Many such cases.
Get like endless support from the Iranian community, so really do your research and what you're standing here in support of.
And you know how you get to that realization? You reach failure. Congratulations! Failure has been achieved at the Valley of Despair. Now, the only place to go from here is to win. Tom Platt speaks of this.
Iranian flags from the IRGC, that's not what the Iranian people want.
People who are scared to form an opinion lecturing other people on how to think. Dude, that's what I'm saying. Most people's opinions aren't even their opinions. They're these loosely built on sand, ready to be rug-pulled thoughts, an amalgamation of others. They're told what to think and what to say. They don't even know why. There's no deeper introspection. People won't even form an opinion because they think it's controversial, as if there's an agent in their head that's watching their every move. People ask for permission to think certain things, to laugh at certain jokes.
Yeah, when you say it's not what the Iranian people want, what do they want? What have you heard?
All we've heard is that the Iranian people are ready for peace, they're ready for women's rights, they're ready for democracy, and they're ready to not be hated by their own government and oppressed.
Next up, I was determined to see who the organizers were at this protest. I wanted to know as many of these NGOs before I left. Now, she gives me the classic line of,
I'm so sorry, but I'm actually not the media person. We have a specific person for...
Am I against academia? I'm not, but I have multiple people in my life with PhD degrees, and they're the first ones to tell me, like, dude, the game is rigged.
Speaking with like people who do media.
While she's an organizer of a protest where the goal is to...
The only agent you should have in your head is the one that tells you that you're skipping leg day.
Let as many people know about what you're doing here as possible. To go deeper into who was organizing this, I wanted to ask the people with the larger signs. The larger signs means that things were coordinated, but before I could speak to this guy, this dude with riot gear recognized me.
Can I talk to him? Why not?
I think it's impossible for me to be hyper political because it gets overshadowed by the important, hard, real things that matter, which is like Maslow's hierarchy of needs, and for me that's health, family, security, and then like everything else just, you know, falls into place. But these people ignore their own lives for these false delusions because they're grasping for moral superiority. They want to be told that what they're thinking and what they're doing is okay and virtuous. But they haven't even had the introspection to realize that none of that truly matters. How do you treat your fellow man? The golden rule. Are you virtuous when no one is looking and when you're called to be? I mean, that's why my name is Philosopher.
What?
He's yet again another professional protester where his sole job is to intimidate and instill fear into journalists like me. That won't stop me, and I went deeper into the protest to ask the people packing up the speakers how I can learn more about their organization.
I have a quick question.
God, I mean, our breakdowns of these protester videos are great and all, but really you're coming for the wisdom. So nestled within these salacious headlines are these nuggets of gold here at Third Eye Global. I just wish everyone, I mean...
Question. For those that were watching our coverage, what's the best way that people can get involved into organizing the protest?
In New York, the People's Forum is a great space to get politicized, to meet people in your community, to come together.
Like when I just see like megaphones and speakers, so how is this being organized?
It's a coalition of people.
I don't want to be politicized, bro.
Like on the ground who have been doing this work for decades, who are coming from all the communities most impacted by our fashion.
If you want to get your brain fucked, come to us.
State, the working class people.
For sure.
Yeah.
Like, is it like a group chat that people can get into? Because some people want to be there organizing it. They don't just want to be on the sidelines in the protest. They want to be organizing. So how can they get involved? How can they pick up?
Forum Monday night, 6 p.m.
I mean, chat, I'm being real. A lot of you would absolutely fold. You'd get politicized real quick. You'd be standing there next to her. I know you would.
People's Forum, where is that?
Forum. I think it's 37th Street, close by.
37th and what?
37th and 8th, I think.
And what's the company that runs it?
The People's Forum.
The People's Forum.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
So now we know another nonprofit that is behind all this. One of the things that Charlie Kirk asked me when I went on his show was, who's paying for all this?
Charlie Kirk's gums scare me.
Who's behind this? And I gave him an answer, which was that my investigation is ongoing, and you can see firsthand why that's the case. Just at this protest, there were so many different NGOs, but the most important thing is that many of them take their donations through Act Blue, and that'll give you an idea of who's behind.
Does Charlie Kirk bench 225? There's no readily available information or evidence to indicate whether Charlie Kirk can bench 225 pounds. I mean, yeah, no. That's crazy. See how hard it is to find a based red-pilled Giga Chad? Am I the last man standing? I might be. Hit the subscribe button. It's crazy. I gotta remind people to subscribe. Back to the sand politics. This is breaking news here at Third Eye Global. Iran vows revenge for U.S. bombings of nuclear sites. And so far, their only retaliation has been 6 little piss missiles that have been shot down in Qatari airspace. They were targeting a U.S. base that has been evacuated, and not a single one landed. Hold this L, clown bozo.
Senior correspondent Mike Tobin in Tel Aviv. Mike.
And Harris says Israeli warplanes continue to strike targets in Iran. They're sending messages to people on the ground there to stay away from military infrastructure and military bases. As the Israeli warplanes unloaded at least 100 missiles striking targets on the ground in Iran. Among the targets they hit, the Fordo nuclear facility. They hit the access roads leading up to that facility. They hit the Evan.
I still can't believe I was psyoped, or at least I was told that Iran had no nuclear facilities and no nuclear program, which has since been vindicated as a lie. Little bunker buster 1, 2, 3, and the B-2s are out.
Prison, notorious because that's where political prisoners had been held. They hit command centers for the Revolutionary Guard and the forces that put down uprisings. They also hit Iran's very old fleet of aircraft. It's unclear if any.
Apparently there's 2,000 sleeper cells in America. I don't know how true that is, but I would venture that it's more than zero. A sleeper cell is essentially an agent of another country that is waiting to be activated or carry out an act of terror or subterfuge on behalf of their mother country.
Any of those aircraft ever got off the ground during this round of conflict. A top Iranian diplomat speaking in Vienna vowed retaliation.
Iran reaffirms its inherent right.
Did the bunker buster bombings kill any people in Iran? Or were those facilities empty as well? I'm picturing it just the equivalent of knocking down a sand castle.
To self-defense and will strongly defend its great nation, its sovereignty, and its supreme national interests by all necessary means. The era of unchecked impunity has come to an end.
Waves of Iranian missiles again came at Israel. What you're looking there in the video is very near the town of Ashdod, where one of the projectiles got through the Israeli defenses.
I'd be so pissed if I was driving home and that shit just blew up next to me. Are you kidding me?
That particular explosion is quite a bit smaller than some of what we have seen in recent days from the ballistic missiles fired from Iran. No one was hurt in that one. It did result in some power.
You may not like it, but this is what peak male performance looks like.
Outages, but 2 times today.
This guy looks like he could throw a football really far with a perfect spiral, and I will not elaborate on why.
Israelis 2 times as.
This guy looks like he's mean on a grill.
Morning, Israelis were sent scrambling for the shelters once overnight. Harris?
Mike, this is something we're learning, and it's a short while ago the IDF hit military.
That guy looks like he could bench 330 pounds without a warm-up.
Sites belonging to Hezbollah. That's up in Lebanon, of course, containing rocket and missile launchers along with weapon storage facilities.
Bro, looks like he can coach a Super Bowl team in the 80s.
North of the Litani River in Lebanon. Look, I bring this up. It's breaking just moments ago, in part to get to the wider point of Israel is fighting on several fronts and, of course, still in Gaza. But let's focus on Lebanon, because that would be a direct violation. So it's being reported to the agreements that have been made between.
This guy is unchokeable.
Lebanon and Israel.
Well, also, if you think back to the agreement that ended the 2006 Lebanon war, or Hezbollah war, that's UN Agreement 1701 that said that Hezbollah cannot arm themselves south of the Litani River. This strike was
not a pencil neck in sight. And this is why I'm known as Fox News Phil, and why we're not watching Soy NN.
North of the Litani River, and there's a pretty clear indication that the Israelis aren't going to stand for.
I love that these places aren't even the size of a U.S. state. Yeah, with the map projection, how big is Iran in comparison to, say, Florida? It's significantly larger than Florida.
Any threats that are close to their border. And the one thing that Hezbollah showed in this last conflict is they could project their firepower.
But the U.S. is about 6 times larger than Iran. Here's a simple visual guide. Check that out.
From north of the Litani River.
Mike Tobin, great reporting as always. Thank you. In focus now, Danny Danone, Israel's ambassador to the United States. Great to see you.
Thank you for having me, Iris.
Let's get into the conflict right now that is multifaceted, and Israel being in the middle of this and still striking Iran. Just lay the groundwork for me.
So we are fighting multiple fronts, like you mentioned. You know, we're still fighting in Gaza. We have 50.
This is the craziest accent I've ever heard in my entire life.
Hostages in captivity. We were able to retrieve 3 bodies over the weekend, and we brought them to burial in Israel. But we still have 50 hostages, and we assume 20 are alive. At the same time, we see what's happening in Lebanon. Hezbollah is not engaged against Israel, but when we see that they're preparing something, we take.
You take that seriously.
We take it very seriously, and we take preemptive attacks. And with Iran, that's the major task today of the IDF. You know, mainly the Air Force and the intelligence are very busy, continue to degrade the capabilities of Iran.
So how much does Iran need its proxies now? More than ever? About the same? How weakened do we think that they are?
What does Iran even have, dude? Hamas, Hezbollah, Houthis? Little terrorist cells? Missiles and warheads from 1300 BC? A lot of flying lawnmowers that don't hit their target? What are we talking about here?
You're not on the ground, but Israel is assessing that very thing.
Well, for years, Iran threatened us with the proxies. They say we're going to build like a circle of fire around Israel, and when the day will come, they will all attack you and invade you. And we were able to neutralize that threat. You know, Hamas is very weak today. Hezbollah is not the same. The Houthis are not the same. But still, they do have capabilities. But I think today they saw what we did in Iran, which was remarkable. They saw the attack of the U.S., which was stunning. And I think even the proxies are calculating the...
Dude, I don't even care about the oil prices. I'll just face tank that shit anyway. You know what I'm saying? Just go to the gas station, fucking fill it up. Extra virgin premium Iranian black gold, please. And then I just sign in freedom units.
Steps.
You do. What could they entail?
Well, you know, I think they know we can reach them. Even the Houthis, all of them, we have intelligence.
I'll go band for band with the GDP of Iran.
And we have the capabilities.
Would Saudi Arabia help? I mean, it can't just be... I mean, they're kind of have been in a proxy situation also.
So, you know, yesterday,
the Houthis are a problem for everybody.
Yesterday, I was at the Security Council. Iran, believe it or not, they called for an emergency session of the Security Council on a Sunday. And when I came there, I was sure everybody would thank the U.S. But actually, it was only us.
Why does this guy sound like Arnold? I've been trying to figure it out. Maybe he benches over 225.
Actually, thank you very much, President Trump, for the brave decision, for showing leadership. And some of the Gulf countries, you know, they know better. They know that...
Holy buckets, I'm getting bunker busted right now.
Iran is a threat to the stability of the region, but they try to be in the middle. They try to...
This guy's got a sleeper build. I don't care what anyone says.
Well, for de-escalation, you don't have both sides. You have Iran, you know, evil regime, and you have Israel and the U.S. that try basically to bring stability to the region.
All right. The United Nations, speaking of the UN, Secretary General condemned the U.S. strikes on Iran nuclear facilities at an emergency meeting that Ambassador was...
That guy has an 8-pack underneath.
just telling us about. Watch this.
the bombing of Iranian nuclear facilities by the United States marks a perilous turn in a region that is already reeling.
Who is that guy, bro? Like, who are these creatures among us?
We now risk descending into a rat hole of retaliation after retaliation.
Before the attacks, Ambassador, you had some strong words for Iran's representative. We're going to watch those together.
How dare you ask the international community to protect you from the
Yeah, these side characters keep popping up, bro. I don't even know all the main characters yet.
consequences of your own genocidal agenda. Have you no shame with innocent blood still dripping from your hands? You come here asking for sympathy. You are not a victim. You are a wolf pretending to be a diplomat.
Ambassador.
You know, hypocrisy in action. Iran for years breached all the rules of international law, and now they come to the Security Council, play victim, ask for sympathy, and the Secretary General yesterday actually played the game with them. Instead of condemning Iran for what they did all those years, he actually called for restraint. So I think the UN...
By us.
Exactly. So I told...
Dudes that nobody knows of just pop up and dictate our lives and futures.
Where were you? Where were you when they enriched the uranium?
Not you. Or me. We exist outside the matrix.
When they built the ballistic missiles, when they targeted Israel, and when they paid those proxies, you were a bystander. So don't come now and preach us when we're actually doing the role of the UN.
Wow. And I know that was a spicy meeting.
Why do I automatically not like the UN? The United Nations. It reminds me of some homogenized political slop organization. Maybe it's because I'm just so American-pilled. I'm just bald eagle maxing. You think I'm ever going to bend the knee to the United Nations? No shot.
And we didn't get the dribs and drabs that you're giving us now, like the big push. It sounds like they're really weakened and desperate if they're going to call a meeting like that and then find out they don't have friends in the room.
Well, he sent 6 letters, and every day...
What is their job? To get nothing done? What has the UN ever accomplished? I feel like it's a bunch of email jobs. They hold a boardroom meeting. They're like, yep, nothing from my end. Nothing from your end? Okay, got it. Same time next week.
It's calling for a meeting, it will not help them. They will need to understand Iran will not be nuclear, and we will remove the threat.
Look, just recently in the last couple of days, the president has floated the idea that if, and I'll just quote him, if Iran can't make...
They send my money to somewhere? I don't know. Yeah, the UN is just a fucking podcast. Holy shit. The UN is a bullshit organization where officials place their stupid children to get fat checks. They are fucking useless Europeans that jerk each other off in a boardroom. Spineless. Slugs. Is that true? Are there any Americans a part of the United Nations, or is it all Europeans? Some of them are Chinese.
Iran better again, or great again, then perhaps they need a regime change. He's not calling for one, but others are. And what do you think of...
Spiritually, it's true.
I think the president is absolutely right. We pray for...
It's a world council. Yes, the elders, the magistrates, the scholars, the mages, the sorcerers, the warlocks, the witches. Please.
Regime change, but that's up for the Iranian people to decide about it. You know, they suffer the most from the regime. You know, they are oppressed.
The UN is equivalent to the Green Party, but imagine it as the only party and it wins every year. The Masonic houses.
They don't have freedom, and I pray for the day. You know, 46 years ago, before the revolution in Iran, we had a great relationship with the Iranian people. We had flights between Tel Aviv to Tehran. We developed great things together. And I am telling them, we want that day to come, that you can come visit us in Tel Aviv, in Jerusalem, but they will have to take control and change the regime.
Yes. UN is INGSOC. I knew I knew I was familiar with that acronym. Stands for English Socialism from George Orwell's 1984. It's the ideology of the party. New Third Eye Global vernacular vocabulary has just dropped. It's exactly what this is. Newspeak, a controlled language designed to eliminate personal thought and restrict the range of ideas. Doublethink, the ability to hold two contradictory beliefs simultaneously and accept both as true. War is peace. Thought crime, even thinking against the party, is illegal and punishable. I mean, if that just opened up a literal gold mine of references that we can draw from now.
I pray too. Ambassador, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Great to have you here. The B-2 bombers are back home from Iran, and we are learning brand new details.
Look at that thing! Breaking news here at Third Eye Global. Over the last couple hours, Iran attacked U.S. bases in Qatar. We were thinking about leveling the entirety of the Middle East. And now, Trump announces Iran and Israel have agreed to complete and total ceasefire. This is Fox News Phil coming at you.
News coming just now. Joining us this evening, Vice President J.D. Vance. Mr. Vice President, thanks for coming.
Absolutely, thank you.
Just seconds ago, the president went to Truth Social and typed this. It has been fully agreed by and between Israel and Iran that there will be a complete and total ceasefire.
Just called the happening guy? Missed. What time is it? Nothing o'clock. I mean, I said it from the jump. Nothing ever happens. World War III, canceled.
Complete and total ceasefire is what he typed.
Yep.
What does that mean? How did it come about? What's the development here?
Well, we were actually working on that just as I left the White House to come over here. So
no bunkers shall be busted today.
That's good news that the president was able to get that across the finish line. I think what it means, Brett, is quite simple. First of all, the president, without, knock on wood, having a single American casualty, obliterated the Iranian nuclear program. We are now in a place where we weren't a week ago. A week ago, Iran was very close to having a nuclear weapon. Now, Iran is incapable of building a nuclear weapon.
That's right. We took out Salami and other top officials in the Iranian government syndicate. Their nuclear program has been neutralized. Their bunkers have been busted wide open.
And with the equipment they have, because we destroyed it. So that's a very, very big thing. Now, what that means, I think, is we have to talk to Iran and, of course, to Israel about what the future holds. Because while we have obliterated the Iranian nuclear program, our hope and our expectation is that they're not going to try to rebuild that program. And I think that's what the president is really trying to figure out here, is to build a long-term settlement.
If I get a single comment about how we're late to the slop, you're getting sent to the shadow realm, where you will type into oblivion, into the ether, and you'll think that everyone can see your comments, but we won't. Here at Third Eye Global, we run a tight ship. We've covered about 4 different breaking news headlines in the past 3 hours alone, and they have to come out chronologically so that you guys can stay locked in with the lore. I'm not going to time skip
here to where we can have peace in the region, where our regional allies and, of course, the American people, most importantly, can be secured, but where we can ensure that the destruction of the Iranian nuclear program that has already happened is not something they try to rebuild.
I want to get to the obliterated part in just a minute, but I just want to read this fully so I get the context here. Congratulations to everyone. It has been fully agreed by and between Israel and Iran that there will be a complete and total ceasefire in approximately 6 hours from now, when Israel and Iran have wound down and completed their in-progress final missions for 12 hours, at which point, the ceasefire for 12 hours, at which point the war will be considered ended. Officially, Iran will start the ceasefire, and upon the 12th hour, Israel will start the ceasefire, and upon the 24th hour, an official end to the 12-day war will be saluted by the world. During each ceasefire, the other side will remain peaceful.
Just logged in for my first stream from you, bro. Oh, You're late to the stream, but you're early to the movement. Many such cases. As a reminder, here at Third Eye Global, we are live on YouTube, Twitch, and Kick every single day of the week. Multiple hour streams per day. Slop uploaded on an hourly basis. Get your slop here.
Full and respectful on the assumption that everything works as it should, which it will. I would like to congratulate both countries, Israel and Iran, on having the stamina, courage, and intelligence to end what should be called the 12-day war. This is a war that could have gone on for years and destroyed the entire Middle East, but it didn't and never will. God bless Israel. God bless Iran. God bless Iran. God bless the Middle East. God bless the United States of America. And God bless the world. He seems confident.
That's very wholesome, Chungus.
That this is all coming together.
That's right.
And when you left the White House, were you thinking this was all gelling here?
When I left the White House, I thought that we might be able to get it across the finish line before this broadcast, and it looks like the president has been able to do that. I mean, look, he's been working the phones constantly.
Everyone will feel it. No one felt shit.
Frankly, before the 12-day war started, but certainly over the past 12 days, the president's been extremely clear about America's national
all bark, no bite. Many such cases.
Objective here. It is to create a world where Iran cannot build a nuclear weapon. We, of course, destroyed the nuclear program that they had, and the president told the entire team, we're going to work to make sure that they don't try to rebuild that nuclear capability in the future. And it's, look, this is a great thing. For Israel, think about this. They've accomplished an important military objective. They've helped us destroy the Iranian nuclear program. They've also destroyed the conventional missile capability of Iran that threatened the country of Israel. For the Iranians, I think this is a
chat. Is anything even real?
new opportunity to actually pursue the path of peace. As I said yesterday, what the Iranians have showed through their support of terror networks, through their now failed effort to build a nuclear weapon, is that they're just not very good at war. And I think the president really hit the reset button and said, look, let's actually produce long-term peace for the region. That's always been his goal. I actually think when we look
I feel like I'm being psyoped right now, dude.
back, we will say the 12-day war was an important reset moment for the entire region.
Would you be surprised if Iran is sending out signals that it doesn't have a specific ceasefire plan? How would the communication have been with the Iranians to get this level of confidence to put out that?
Remember, war is peace. That's Orwellian newspeak.
Detailed statement.
Well, one of the things I've learned, Brett, about the Iranians in the past, 4 or 5 months that I've been in this job is what they say publicly and privately can sometimes be very different. I think what the Iranians have shown very clearly is they don't want this war to go on for much longer. Their air defenses have been totally destroyed. Their conventional missile program has been largely destroyed. And of course, their nuclear program has been obliterated, as I said before. So I think the Iranians are at a place where they don't want to keep on fighting. You saw the president, and I don't have the truth in front of me, but he talked about the next 6 hours finalizing the attacks. I mean, I think what he's talking about is right now, for the American people watching, it's dark over there. That's typically when the Israelis and the Iranians have been shooting at each other. I think there's some recognition that that might continue for another few hours, and tomorrow really is a new day. The end of the 12-day war, the end.
Yeah, they're just going to fire off some last pot shots, get it out of their system. When the sun rises, it's all peace, baby.
The Iranian nuclear program, and I really do believe the beginning of something very big for peace in the Middle East.
So you said totally obliterated. The president has said totally obliterated the Iran nuclear program.
Yeah.
Do you know for sure where all the highly enriched uranium is?
Well, Brett, I think that's actually not the question before us. The question before us is, can Iran enrich the uranium to a weapons-grade level, and can they convert that fuel to a nuclear weapon?
And absolutely not, given what we just did to their facilities. So, they got fucked, bud.
And we know, based on the success of our mission, of course, the leadership of the president, but the incredible skill of our military, that the 2 mission objectives are completely successful. We know that they cannot build a nuclear weapon. Now, you asked about the highly enriched uranium.
Yeah, like 900 pounds of it.
But what we know, Brett, is that uranium is something that exists in very large supply. Our goal was to bury the uranium, and I do think the uranium is buried, but our goal was...
I mean, those bunkers have been busted.
...to eliminate the enrichment and eliminate their ability to convert that enriched fuel into a nuclear weapon. I think this is an important point, Brett, because so many of the folks who have focused on the highly enriched uranium,
60%.
the main focus, Brett, has been to destroy their enrichment capacity, because we don't want that 60% uranium to become 90% uranium. That's the real concern, and that's what was so successful about our mission.
So after all this, if the Iranian government survives as is, what's to stop it from rebuilding over time if they in fact moved the 60% highly enriched uranium? You know, that's the concern.
No, the big concern, Brett, and this is again what we destroyed, is their ability.
Iran is the one making the J.D. Vance memes. Yeah, I wouldn't put it past them.
To enrich uranium. If they have 60% enriched uranium, but they don't have the ability to enrich it to 90%, and further, they don't have the ability to convert that to a nuclear weapon, that is mission success. That is the obliteration of their nuclear program, which is why the president, I think, rightly is using that term. But here's the question. If Iran is desperate to build a nuclear weapon in the future, then they're going to have to deal with a very, very powerful American military again. Our hope is that the lesson that the Iranians have learned here is, look,
sit in your chair. It's over there in the corner where you belong.
We can fly a bunker buster bomb from Missouri to Iran completely undetected without landing once on the ground, and we can destroy whatever nuclear capacity you build up. I think that lesson is what's going to teach them not to rebuild their nuclear capacity.
Yesterday, were you speaking on the president's behalf when you said he was not interested in regime change?
Well, Brett, what I've said is the American military, that is not our mission as regime change. Our mission was to destroy the nuclear facilities and the nuclear program of Iran, which we, of course, did. I think what the president's also said is that the Iranian people want to make a decision about regime change. That's between the Iranian people and the regime. Of course, we support freedom fighters all around the world, but our mission was to destroy the nuclear facilities, and that's what we did.
So you don't think there's any mixed message when he goes to Truth Social and says it's not politically correct to use the term regime change, but if the current Iranian regime is unable to make Iran great again, why wouldn't there be a regime change? Miga.
Well, I think what the president is saying very clearly, Brett, is if the Iranian people want to do something about their own leadership, that's up to the Iranian people. What the American national security interest here is very simple. It's to destroy the nuclear program. That's what we've done. And now that the 12-day war...
I could see Peter Thiel in his brain like plankton, giving him the cue cards of what to say. It's all going according to plan.
Appears to be effectively over, we have an opportunity, I think, to restart a real peace.
He said the same thing 6 times in a row. Destroy their nuclear plans, which we did.
Process. And Brett, this is not just about two countries, Iran and Israel. All of these Gulf Arab states, they want peace, they want to invest, they want to build artificial intelligence hardware, they want to sort of...
I feel like this is not true. Everyone talks about peace as if it's this virtue that everyone is clinging to. Meanwhile, women can't dance on TikTok in Iran. How about that, J.D. Vance? How about we talk about the hijabs? How old was Aisha? I need to know.
Sort of come into the new economy, and that was impossible when you had Iran.
Schizo moment, crash out.
And that was, as the president said, acting like a bully across the Middle East. We really think that if the Iranians are smart about the path forward, this could be a new dawn of an...
Yeah, Iran got cucked. The U.S. just walked in and busted their bunkers, spread the cheeks wide open.
Economic age of prosperity, of course, for our Gulf Arab allies, for us, for the Israelis, for everybody, but it's going to require the Iranians play it smart from here.
One of the most annoying things JD does is he always says the first name of the person he's talking to 95% of the time he talks to them. Yeah, it's probably some neuro-linguistic programming, Tony Robbins, high IQ alpha male thing, where it's like, this is a display of interpersonal power between the two of us. I'm 100% locked in, and I'm referring to you by your name.
The president called it very weak, the Iran missile firing on the U.S. base in Qatar, El Udeid. Was it a face-saving move? How do you get from that, firing missiles at a U.S. base, to a ceasefire, as he details in this Truth Social?
Well, as the president said, they actually gave us some warning here. And we think they gave us some warning because they didn't want to kill Americans and they didn't want to escalate. There's
J.D. Vance is almost too good at his job. Now, I've said this in the past, and I think it will come true. He will inherit the MAGA sphere in 2028. He will, without a doubt, run for president and probably win. But right now, I mean, as VP, it is your job to be chief glazer, like the head of glazing at Krispy Kreme donuts, but he's really good at it. Bro does not miss a beat. Everything is to the script.
Definitely some symbolism to this, Brett. If you look at the Iranian attack, it was 14 missiles that they
Saying someone's name to a lot to assert dominance sounds like something you'd learn in alpha male boot camp. Yeah, that's what I mean.
telegraphed ahead of time. We dropped 14 bunker buster bombs. As the president told me earlier, our missiles, our bombs were a little bit bigger than their bombs. Our bombs actually accomplished the goal of eliminating.
Now they're saying Iran never got the proposal. Who's saying that?
Their nuclear program. But look, we're happy, again, to restart the peace process as the president just did today.
Was the message delivered directly to the U.S. or through an emissary?
The message is always delivered through some sort of intermediary. That's been consistently true of the Iranians. Of course, we'd love to talk to them. The president's been clear about this.
Accelerationist dark monarchy incoming. Total Yarvin victory.
We'd love to have a direct conversation about how we move this thing forward because, again, we got to step back here. Why did the president do what he did over the past week? It's so that we could destroy their nuclear program. If they try to rebuild it, they're going to be on the wrong end of American power once again. We don't want that. I think they don't want
wrong end of American power goes hard.
That, but the ball's in their hands.
You've been reluctant or at least cautious about getting engaged previously, and that has been public. What made you sign on to this action this time?
Well, I think the president has been very clear, and I've always agreed with the president that Iran can't have a nuclear weapon. And you try to run the diplomatic process as much as you possibly can.
His acting is really good. Got to give it to him. He presents everything like he's explaining it to his 4-year-old nephew. Well, after learning that 25 to 30% of people don't have an inner monologue, I feel like it's perfect. This is exactly what American politics needs.
When the president decided that wasn't going to work, he took the action that he had to take. Now we're in a new phase. That action was successful. We had a wildly successful military operation to take out their nuclear program. Now let's go on to the next phase, and
which is peace talks.
The president, look, sometimes he's willing to use peace. Sometimes he's willing to use the military. I think it really depends on what the Iranians do from here.
And what do you think they do from here?
Well, it's an open question, Brett. I don't want to predict what the other side will do, but I think that I know what will.
J.D. Vance looks like he can make a perfect medium rare steak on a cast iron pan with butter and rosemary.
Do if they continue to pursue a nuclear weapon, and I hope they don't choose that path because I know the president wants to see the Middle East become peaceful and prosperous in the future. That's not going to happen if Iran pursues a nuclear weapon again.
And for the people, so we talked about the people who believe that this is going towards World War III, especially in your own.
He's also extra animated on keywords like peace, happy, and we are glad. Yeah, the word peace, I don't know if it's the accentuation of the s at the end that's really getting to my eardrums. Maybe I'm neurodivergent. I don't know, but it seems like he's like, we're looking for peace in the Middle East.
Party, there's a section that's very vocal. There's another section that says
it was mostly peaceful bombing, just like the LA ICE protests.
As you should take out this regime because it's evil and horrible and has done horrible things for
a couple bunker busters really makes you reevaluate your life decisions.
Decades. How do you square those two sides? And can this regime stay?
I can't believe they named them that, dude.
In place and still have a peaceful, reaction relationship with the U.S.?
Well, I think the president has squared those two sides quite well. One, because he's the leader of the movement.
He always says president. He never says Donald.
And a lot of people trust the president, as they should. They recognize they're not seeing the same.
It's almost like the glorification. I'm just taking notes here.
Intelligence, they're not seeing the same classified documents. They trust the president to do a good job. But importantly, Brett, I think he's threaded the needle quite well.
This elusive third-person president.
here. We had a very particular objective. It was profound and difficult to accomplish.
Do you
the
think they were
elimination
close?
of the Iranian nuclear program.
Do you think they were
and I
close?
think the president successfully did that. You're asking, were the Iranians close to a nuclear weapon? Brett, they were very close to a nuclear weapon. And what I encourage my fellow Americans to think about here is that a week ago,
the Dark Triad team cooked a good script.
the Iranians were quite close to achieving a nuclear weapon. Now they cannot build a nuclear weapon. That is the biggest testament to the president's leadership and to the success of our mission. In 1 week,
they've been 2 to 3 months away from nuclear weapons for 20 years. That's illegal. You can't say that. That's a thought crime. Thought crime.
Without, thank God so far, not losing a single American casualty, we have taken what was a threatening nuclear program that could have destabilized.
Have we reached the nothing ever happens point, or we're still in the many people die phase? This is the nothing ever happens point, which was my original hypothesis. I knew this shit was going to blow over because nothing ever happens.
The entire world. Now that program is gone. We did it through effective presidential leadership and also some very, very competent work from our troops.
How often does it happen where you're going to do an interview and you get a Truth Social seconds before? You have some sense of it, but it's pretty detailed, where you are being asked about something the president has just put out.
That is the most psychopathic way to read off your laptop. Who hits them with the full extendo?
In this administration, Brett, it happens quite a bit, actually, but we knew this was coming. The draft, it was interesting. I just read the draft about 2 minutes before we went on the air. It was a little bit different from what the president had showed me a couple of hours ago, but again...
A year now, Phil will be in the foxhole being like, nothing ever happens.
And I knew that he was working the phones as I was on the way over here, so I knew exactly what we were going to do. And look, I love that about this presidency and this administration, is he's always working. He doesn't say, you know, the vice president's going to do an interview, so I'm going to stop doing anything. He says, you know, we're going to do the American people's business. The vice president knows what I'm trying to accomplish, and if I get it done, great, because we're going to talk about it and celebrate it, because it is a thing to celebrate. I can't emphasize this enough, Brett. We have destroyed the Iranian nuclear...
Brett! There's a party at my place. Glizzies and hamburgers all night long, dude. Peace!
Program, 0 Americans have died. That's an amazing, amazing thing. Americans, whether Democrats or Republicans, we should be celebrating that.
Yo, let's throw a party.
Vice President, we appreciate you coming and rolling with the punches as well. Thank you for the time.
Thanks, Brett. Good to see you.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here.
Hey! Subscribe to Third Eye Global. That includes Philion, Philion TV on Twitch, and Philion on Kick.com.